The face paint is temporary, the hair color is semi-permanent. We'll just start there. Some would say I'm in my fuck it era. Self-expression is very important. I think it's very helpful to display that to you via my locks, via my face. Actually, I just went to a fair today and a lovely woman gave me this face paint. So yeah. Alright, so deep into the annals of my Instagram we go to uncover what was left unsaid in my quitting video and my quitting process vlog. I do not intend to make quitting my whole brand, although that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I could use a little bit of that in my life, but I figured this would clean the plate of all the questions. Let's get into it. Two big areas to cover right off the bat, finances and healthcare, which honestly are always my questions when somebody quits their job. I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, where's the funding coming from? Where's the medical care coming from if you're in the US? Like, what's the bottom line here? So let's talk about budgeting first. To answer the question around how much should I save, while I was working, I did push money into an emergency fund for myself. Conservatively, I basically just put like double my rent times 6 months in there. I had this little nest egg, and then fortuitously and unfortuitously, I totaled my car not even a month after moving to Seattle, which was, of course, documented on oversharing in Seattle. So I will put that vlog up on here if you want to watch that. At the time, it was very gut-wrenching because I'd never done something so serious in my whole life. But what ended up happening there is my insurance company gave me money to cover the value of the car, which because of the microchip shortage, everything is just period, everything is inflated right now, which we'll talk about that and the timing of my unemployment as well. But like everything's so inflated that I ended up selling my car to like my insurance company for around the same, if not more than I bought it for new 3 years before that, which was cuckoo crazy. And so that happened in the fall, and I had a thought that like I was gonna quit at the end of that year, right? So I put that into its own savings fund alongside my emergency fund and had it just sit there. And then when the time rolled around to quit, that made it so that I had not only an emergency fund to cover like 6 months of living, but also another pot of a little more than that amount, basically. I didn't have a budget that I used month to month. It was on my to-do list, but that was one of the things that just fell to the bottom of my to-do list every single week with work, was just like that never got to the top. There were always things that were higher priority than setting up a budget for myself because I had disposable income and I was financially secure. So I didn't actually know what my spending, like beyond just like seeing my credit card bill, like I didn't know what my spending was like every month and what exactly I needed. Now at this point, I have set up a budget. I did collect suggestions or recommendations from you all actually to figure out which budget to use. So thank you to those of you on Instagram that sent those in. I ended up plugging all of my information into You Need a Budget or YNAB. They actually have a very extensive YouTube presence. So that came in very handy when I was setting up the budget. It's not the most like intuitive setup to begin with, but I know social proof wise from like the people that told me they love it that I will be able to use it. And after a week, like the learning curve, pretty steep, but like it's starting to level out. So looking at that, I'm feeling okay. My disposable income is, I have none of that anymore. So a lot of the more frivolous spending I would do, you know, getting takeout or buying Omar Apollo merch, like that has to die down. My spending mantra for this season is no treats, no drinks. Just a little tongue in cheek because of course, like a little bit of hedonism is important in this life. You cannot be fully abstinent from like anything. But that rule alone really keeps me on the straight and narrow so that I am reducing my spending from what it used to be. Because if I went out to, you know, a brunch, I could get a matcha and a little pastry and the breakfast. And now it's like, maybe just get the breakfast and drink water. Like maybe that's okay because you're unemployed willingly and like the luxury I'm affording myself now is my time, not like my material possessions. So I'm just kind of switching what like luxury and wealth means in my mind to like, it's not about being able to buy the Urban Outfitters corn stool. It's about being able to go to the park on a Tuesday and read a book like Miss Lexi Lombard would do, you know? Like that to me. Not saying I fully subscribe. I'm not saying that I fully subscribe to the idea that that girl is luxury, but there are pieces of that existence and that performance that do appeal to me. Anyway, so that's a bit about my spending. Here's the other thing, guys, is fortunately I have YouTube and I have Patreon. Thank you, patrons! Thank you, patrons. No one's got me like my patrons got me. No one's got me. I love y'all. I love y'all. Like, the comments in Patreon and the live, I just like get so much warmth from that community. Just have to give my people a little shout out. But fortunately I have this to supplement, so it's like there's not nothing coming in. And then there's some other expenses like healthcare. Let's talk about healthcare. That was really my number one concern, was like, okay, I have the savings, I do have an income here, I can always pick up like a part-time gig if I need to do that. Like, I'm not fearful. There's so many places hiring right now. We'll talk about the timing after healthcare, guys. I don't need to say the big R word, but like, we'll talk about it. Healthcare was my biggest concern because I've never not had health insurance. My parents provided me with their health insurance until I was 22. And then as soon as I started working at my employer, I got on their health insurance plan, which was like $50 a month, plus obviously all of the ridiculous copays and the deductible and all of that jazz. Like, unfortunately in America, when you pay for health insurance, that's not what it costs for your healthcare. That's just the start. That's the starting point. So I quit right after I turned 26, so I couldn't go back on my parents. And when asking fellow creators, it seems that there are a good number of creators that just like are on their parents' health insurance because they're not 26 yet. And I'm like, damn, I'm curious to see what y'all do when you're self-employed without parents. I did talk to a few creators who cover their own health insurance. And most importantly, I talked to a couple of content creators who pay for their own health insurance and are chronically ill, because your costs with healthcare are just wildly different when you have diagnoses, when you have prescriptions, when you have specialists you need to be seeing to keep up with your day-to-day health. And they talked me down. It didn't seem as awful as I was expecting. And then I was looking at options through my employer. Cobra is what they offer you for like a term after you're unemployed, or even if you've quit your job, like you can pay for Cobra. But for Kaiser, which is the health plan I'm on, it was going to be $600 a month out of pocket just for the premium. So just to pay Kaiser, that's not even including like the $15 copays and the medications and the blood draws and all of that. So I was like, that's a little cuckoo crazy. My sister is self-employed. She does a few odd jobs in Seattle. And so she's been on the Apple healthcare here, which is like not Tim Cook's Apple healthcare. That would be dystopian, but we're actually getting there. For tech companies just to become health insurance companies, that's some sort of like satire in itself. But anyway, she navigated that and sort of just told me like, hey, it's actually really easy. There's a lot of deductibles if you are not employed. So TLDR and LBR, I am insured through the Obamacare of Washington. So like it is basically just Obamacare. It's called Health Plan Finder. You make your own account on the portal, you put in your information, you list all these, you know, tax items and whatnot. And then basically it tells you like how many sort of like discounts you qualify for, basically like little reimbursements and stuff. And then it offers you the plans, and I was able to pick a Kaiser plan. That being said, I spent 6 hours on the phone one day between the Health Plan Finder and Kaiser trying to get the insurance validated because it was very screwy. So has not been a seamless process. I've yet to actually see a Kaiser doctor because I've been unemployed for over a month now and just got approved last week, but it's supposed to take like 10 to 15 days to give me access. So I don't know like how much more expensive out of pocket it's going to be, but I'm paying like $120 a month for that health insurance. So over double what I was paying my employer for better health insurance, but that to me is more manageable than $600 through Cobra Care. So that's that. Now let's discuss whether I'm concerned about the possible recession and the timing of my unemployment. So I quit my job before a lot of the buzz around the recession was taking place. However, I definitely still deeply felt the inflation, because that's not a feeling, it's a material thing. We're all experiencing that around us. Like we saw the gas prices and everything. And it definitely caused me some anxiety. I was like, damn, I can't believe I willingly quit my job when a bunch of tech companies are like mass laying off people and rescinding people's job offers. I'm like, first of all, I probably could have just waited and been laid off, because it seems as though HR is starting to weed out some of the low performers, at least in the tech sector. But hindsight 2020, and also, like I said in the video, the timing is never going to be good to quit. There is always going to be a reason to stay. Like it's about your own integrity and your own values and your own authority of like what is right. And I made that decision, and then, our broken economy that dips into recession cyclically and we call it normal, proceeded to do that. I don't know if that was a full sentence. Basically, I don't know how the recession would have factored into my planning if I had been more aware of it when I quit back in April. But at this point now, like definitely when I watch TikToks about it, it freaks me out a little bit that it may be more difficult in 6 months to get a job than it is right now. Because like I said, I applied to a few jobs and, got a couple offers and felt good about the fact that, okay, I know I'm still employable, so I can come back to the job market when I'm ready. And now I'm feeling like, but maybe when I'm ready, the job market won't be, which is a little scary, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie to you and be like, I don't care, I'm good. Like, I'm a little scared, but ultimately, I will figure that out when the time comes. I am in the midst of my fuck it era, and like we are just going to roll with the punches. I don't have a 5-year plan anymore. I don't even have like a 5-day plan. I'm just trying to stay as present as possible because I don't know what the circumstances are going to be in October. And so I'm just going to try to make the best decisions I can for myself now and work through that when I can. I have a lot of marketable skills. How do you deal with the anxiety of not having any or very little income? I'm also in my unemployment era. This is where the budget was the game changer, because I found myself suddenly wondering, how much money can I spend at the grocery store? Do I have enough income to order Domino's on a Friday night and throw myself a pizza party? Like, can I afford that? My lifestyle needs to contract a little bit to fit this. And in my budget, at least, I'm basically able to fund all of my categories with the money in my checking so that I know if I've got it. And I can always just check the budget to see, like, do I have any more money in the eating out budget, or do I need to take it out of another area and scrap something else? So I needed the budget to like rationally convince myself of what I have and pre-plan my month out so that I'm not scrambling at the end of it trying to make my credit card statements and my checking account and my savings and all my bills match up. Quite a few questions centered around how I structure my days, how I schedule my time, and I do get into this in the next video coming out on my channel, which is a Monday night in my life of sort of figuring that all out. But essentially, like, it was really important for me during this time actually to not be so ascetic. I didn't want to become my own boss during this time. I wanted to kill the boss in my head. Like, I wanted to not feel like my time had value anymore, because that is the crux of capitalism, is that time is money. Like, we sell our time to our employers, and it's a really sickening thought that like we just exist that way. I wanted to like devalue time and stop feeling like I could waste time, because again, like, that's the luxury that I afforded myself with this unemployed era, is like, I no longer have a clock running in the back of my head counting down the time to my next work day or till the weekend is over or till my next meeting. Like, there's no longer that sense of urgency. And I didn't want to like reinstall my own new sense of urgency in its place. Like, I didn't want to just replace the same mechanisms of work I had. I just wanted to really lean into my own rhythm. So for that reason, if I don't have a therapy session or a call or personal training at a set time in the morning, I will just set my alarm for however much 8 or 9 hours of sleep is from the time I go to sleep. So if I don't get to bed that night until 1 a.m. because I am choosing pleasure, whatever that looks like, I know that sounds a little like saucy, but pleasure looks like many different things in my life. But anyway, if I don't get to bed till 2 a.m., I let myself wake up at 10 a.m. because I get to prioritize my well-being when my employer would never do that. And I'm like, that's luxury, to actually prioritize my well-being and to see like what my quality of life would be like if I actually just got the amount of sleep I needed every night. And that has got to be a major contributor to my mood, is just the abundance of sleep I've been getting. Like, I don't think we account for the role that sleep plays in our lives enough in our modern era. And then once I get up, I do have a very consistent morning routine, but similarly to when I was employed, I don't put a boundary on when those things need to get done. Like, when I was on Wellbutrin, which we'll talk about that in the next video as well, when I was on Wellbutrin, it was important for me to take that drug before like 10 a.m. because it was a sustained release 12-hour cycle, and if I took it at like noon, it would be really hard to go to sleep at midnight because it was a stimulant. But without that, like, it's okay if I take my medication at 12 p.m. one day and 9 a.m. the next and 11 a.m. the next. It's okay if I wash my face at 1 p.m. It's okay if I eat breakfast at 11:30. Like, I have those important things that make me feel regulated emotionally, physically, spiritually, but I don't bound them by a certain time. And then I basically now have just been getting through the things I've been meaning to do for a long time, but we're never able to make it up the to-do list because the priority of work always pushed them back down again. So hand washing my wool sweaters is what I'm doing right now. You can't see it on my floor, but they're existing there. Embroidering birthday gifts for my friends, reading, washing my windows, like not insanely aspirational things, just things I knew would be meaningful to me and enrich my sense of stability and comfort. And so every day I basically just, you know, I still have a to-do list every single day. Like, I fill up every single day. There's not a ton of idle time where I'm just twiddling my thumbs, but I also lean into like, hey, if I really feel like working on something creative instead of going to the gym, I just go ahead and do that. Which to me is mind-boggling because I am usually so regimented and harsh on myself about the expectations I put out and what I'm achieving. But this is about unachievement and leaning away from that and reinstating my intuition. You'll get a better sense of my routine in my actual lifestyle vlogs that are coming to be, coming into being. But one really cool thing that I didn't get to talk about in those vlogs that I've been enjoying is just being mindful and present. So much that goes into that. But a lot of times when I was working, there would be little things that would crop up that I would just kind of flick away because I didn't have time. I gotta jump on this call. I gotta send this email. I don't have time to clean off that countertop because work's waiting. Like, I don't have time to reorganize that cabinet because it's time to open my laptop. Now, when I feel an impulse of like, hey, that's something that needs to get done, instead of like just pushing it away and then letting it freaking sit in the back of my mind and just lurk there and like bother me for days and days and days because it's undone and unsettled and something that I just keep pushing off, I invite it into my day and I say, what if we just did that right now? Which, like, radical to me, truly radical to me. I've never lived my life that way. Like, typically I just make a note for later. That's for later when you're doing your whole cleaning thing, you'll take care of that. But now it's been so nice, just like as it comes up, settle it because I realized I'll never want to do something more than in the moment I recognize that it needs to get done. That is the best time to do something. And again, the luxury of time, now that I have it, I can spend it that way. I didn't always have this much time. I couldn't spend it that way. But that has been really, really, really gratifying. Like, my mom always would tell my dad the acronym of Ohio, which is only handle it once. So like, if you take off your pair of socks, put it in a laundry hamper right then while you're holding them. Don't put them down, then come back to it again, then put them away somewhere else, and then come back to it again, which if you struggle with executive function, like that is really hard. It's best to just, when you have it, be present, be mindful, and be like, let me just take care of this now. It'll never be quicker and easier than in the present moment. How do you avoid the trap of feeling like you have to be doing something all the time? Doing nothing is doing something. And that's actually a very important something to do, is nothing. Lovely people that have stuck around to the end of the video, thank you. Viewers like you typically subscribe, so if that button is red, you may want to join your fellow End of Katherout video viewer comrades. And if you've made it this far, comment down below, comrade here, with a little exclamation point. You can start a comment that way, however you want to do it, but a little comrade here would go a long way. If you've heard me plug my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok, my Patreon before but never checked them out, maybe today is the day to click those hyperlinks in the description and see what they look like. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is not. And maybe that impulse and that intuition is not hitting you. And that is okay. I appreciate your viewership. And I will see you all next time. Thanks so much for watching, and Katherout.